on Time Bandit in 10. I'm very excited about our guest today. But first, I just want to mention our new website is out there. If you want to go to timebandit.io, you can learn about the book and the upcoming app. So we're excited about the launch of that new website. So go read a little bit more about us. And let me welcome Lucy. Lucy, good to see you again. And for those of you that don't know, Lucy and her team helped me publish my book, Time Bandit. And so why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Michael, and thanks for inviting me. It's lovely to be here. So I am the co-founder of Rethink Press with my business partner, Joe Gregory, and we publish business books. We're a hybrid publisher of business and self-development books. We have been going for 12 years, and we've published well over 1,000 books by expert entrepreneurs who want to write a good book that will build their business, and that's our mantra. And we also have just started up a new enterprise called Book Magic, which takes all the coaching and mentoring that we've done over the past, over that sort of last decade, really. And it's essentially, it's a book writing, a business book writing app. So it's not just about, sort of writing in an app. It's coaching. It takes you through the whole process. So yeah. That's my and also I'm an author myself. I've written 13 books.
14. Well, I've had one.
14. I'm in the middle of another one.
There you go. Well, I've written one, and I couldn't have done it without your guys and your service, because and the virtual coaching that you're talking about launching, the real coach that the real-time coaching that you guys gave me, I think it was just endless help, and wouldn't have made it without you guys. So I'll give you a personal endorsement for that.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
So let's get to a couple of things that we promote on Time Bandit in 10, which is really wasting time and time tips. So do you have a time waster that maybe that you just drives you crazy?
Yeah, I mean, the time waster for me is myself, basically. That as a publisher, I kind of set up processes, and Joe and I started just really the two of us running a publishing company, and we've now got a team of sort of 50 plus people. And my big time waster is that I set up processes that I'm part of, and then I refuse to get out of them when it's time to hand them over. And there are things that I do that take up time that actually other people could do better. But I'm always of the mindset that nobody will quite understand how to do it like I do it. And I have to be kind of forced or gently led away from them until somebody else steps in and say, and then, sort of a week later, I realized that actually they're going perfectly well without me. And they never, I could have stepped away, but I'm quite bad at taking myself out when it's time for me to move on.
That's a fantastic tip, and I don't think our time waster to talk about, because I don't think anyone on previous recordings have brought that up. But it's about delegation, right? That's one of the quadrants of the priority matrix that we promote, and it's that fear of loss of control, maybe, or whatever it is. But once you hand it off and you see that people do it just as well, and sometimes even better.
Sometimes better. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes better. You hand something over to a dedicated person, because, I'm sort of doing loads of different things. And then, somebody who's specifically dedicated to that particular piece of work is going to do it better than me. And they just have to, kind of do a bit of learning, and then they're away. And that's great. And then I forget about it, and I can start wasting my time on something else.
That's right. Well, let's convert that and talk, instead of time wasters, what about your time management tip that you'd like to share?
So I've got 2 time management tips. Well, from my point of view, and one is my Google Calendar. I absolutely love Google Calendar. I put everything in there from, I have several calendars in one calendar. So I've got my personal stuff, I've got my work stuff. And, it just, I find it represents the inside of my head very usefully. I like the colors. It reminds me, if I look at it, I can just see at a glance what I've got to do that day, what I've got to do the next day. I've got the sort of, the long-term things at the top that are telling me what's there. And I find that incredibly useful. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. And I think really time management things, tools like that, you've got to fit them to your own brain, if you know what I mean, and work out how you see things and represent things. And for me, Google Calendar is great. But the other time management tip that I would give to anybody, and I tell people about this when they're writing their books as well, is to train your subconscious to do a lot of the work in the background when you're doing other things. So, for example, if you're working on, a big idea or a title for a book or a particular area, and it's kind of not kind of coming together in your conscious kind of working, then, literally tell your subconscious to take this over, to take it off you, and stop thinking about it. Then actually go and distract yourself with something else completely different. And it's typical of the thing that you have a problem, you can't solve it, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, and ping, there's the answer.
Right.
And your subconscious will actually do that on command if you learn how to tell it to do it and to listen when it comes back to you. And it saves so much time, because I always say to people when they're writing their book, it's not about the time you spend, just about the time you spend with your fingers on the keyboard and your eyes watching the words come up on your screen. Yeah. It is about all the rest of the time where you're thinking and cogitating and listening, but also your subconscious is doing a hell of a lot of work in the background. And I think you need to learn to trust it, to learn how to manage it and tell it what to do, and get the feedback from it.
That's fantastic, and thank you for sharing that. I for me, it's when I walk my dog in the morning, and I think I'm subconsciously not consciously doing what you're saying, because
yes, I'm sure
ideas or memory or something pops in my head when I'm clear and it's just me, the dog, and the whatever nature I'm taking in that day, and it just pops up and go, oh, that's the solution, or that's the thing I was thinking about. And so I know I'm doing it. I just don't know that I'm consciously doing it, but it's a fantastic tip. And so you deal with a lot of writers, obviously, authors that are trying to get their books out. Maybe some are experienced, some are brand new. And then you have a publishing team. How does that all work together? And what can you tell us a little bit about Rethink?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we started off, Joe and I, as a publishing business, and we were specifically working with authors who are experts in their field, but not necessarily expert writers, not necessarily experienced writers, and some of them quite unconfident about their writing abilities. So we developed a coaching team and a methodology as well for getting books written. So we position books very clearly first. I mean, this particular genre of books benefits particularly from knowing exactly who you're writing it for. And it's not about writing for a mass market. Well, usually it's not. It's about writing to your niche market and speaking to one person, because I think people forget that every reader of your book is a single person listening to your voice as a single person. And so that's, one of the things you have to do first to position your book to the right person. And then we plan in detail. We actually before the Book Magic app, we developed a book planning piece of software, working on a comparatively simple basis, but the fact of planning everything in advance in really considerable detail, which I think you probably did with us, Michael. Yes. And that then makes the writing easier, because you are never then facing a blank page. You don't get writer's block. You know exactly what journey you're taking your readers on, and you know exactly, we plan to the sort of detail of every subheading within every chapter, every case study, every piece of supporting data. It's all listed and turns into a contents page that you're then filling in. So that's how you stop wasting time, because you can, if you don't plan in advance, you waste time writing and thinking and wondering what comes next, and where shall I put this, and it gets overwhelming.
And I think you just said it, that it's, you stop wasting time on things that you either shouldn't worry about or you're not in control of. And really, for me, when I was writing the book, I was just writing. And then when I found you guys, it really put it in a framework that allowed me to focus on the things that I needed to focus on. And your team took over what needed they should do. And I didn't even have to really put much brain power into it. And so I think for me, it sped the delivery of the book up. I'm guessing for most of your customers or authors that's really about it, right? Let's get your book to market, but you can focus on the quality, and Rethink will focus on the timeframes and the steps involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having a dedicated project editor for the publication of your book is what takes, I mean, people think about self-publishing and it's going to be cheaper, but actually, if you think about the cost of your own time in that, it's not cheaper, because you've got to, when you're project managing, especially something that is actually more complicated than most people think it is. Publishing has a very complex back end and behind the scenes element. And if you've got somebody who is an expert project managing that, it is much quicker and much more effective than if it's something you're learning and perhaps as a one-off. And that really is a waste of your time.
Yes, absolutely. And you can also focus on the fun things about, you guys even shared with me and all the authors, on launch day, what do you do? How do you have fun with it? That kind of stuff. And that's how you can enjoy the experience. Yeah. Well, so fantastic. We're up to our 10 minutes. It goes so fast. I wish I could ask you a lot more questions. So maybe we'll do it again sometime. I do have something fun for you. When our Time Bandit app is available, your comments on Google Calendar, we find that critical. And when we prioritize, we're doing some things with Google Calendar. It's not done yet, but when it is, I'll show it to
interesting.
You could help. And I think you're spot on with, you mentioned something that's very subtle again, which was colors. You respond to certain colors, and everybody should focus on that, because I do the same thing in my calendar. When I see a certain color, I know it relates to something, and urgency and things like that are all part of that. So, fantastic tips, both the subconscious and the calendaring, as well as the time waster thing about delegation. I really appreciated all your comments. Thank you so much, Lucy. Best of luck in book magic, and continued success with Rethink. We really appreciate what you do, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.